Okay, we're back in the car.
And what did we see?
We saw the new Nosferatu. I don't feel like we need to do like a large... It's a very long movie.
Well,
the whole premise is there's a new love... There's this woman who's had these dreams, and she like kind of... Through some, occult reason, she kind of gave up her body to this demon or angel, kind of at the beginning of the movie that you noticed when she was a younger girl. And, she kind of gave this, I guess, I don't know, like a word that she would be wed to the spirit. And that's kind of how it starts, But, you learn that she's now married. It's like present day. She's married. Her husband is trying to get a deed sold on a house or a castle, I should say. But it was a ploy because the person in charge of sending him there was a follower of this. They don't even actually say the word vampire. This demonic count fella. And then he's there. He has him sign an oath to renounce their wedding so that Nosferatu could be wed to the woman. And it kind of just goes on from there. I don't know if you want to kind of add the rest of it.
I would say the obvious thing that's not been mentioned is that this is a remake of a movie made many, 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 many years ago. We were talking about, you said you've not seen that, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And you have.
I have. It was a long time ago, so just to be clear, there's a really good shot that I'm going to say that, this happened in that movie, but not the other movie. And so, there may be things that I'm mistaken just because it's been a bit. I don't exactly remember the differences between the two, but yeah, this is a remake of a movie made many, many years ago. I think it was like 1920 something. I think that there was a period of time where it was a lost movie. But yeah, the premise is effectively the same. There's a couple, what's his name? Is it William? What's his name?
The male protagonist.
Yeah. Thomas. Yeah.
Thomas.
He is sent to sell property to Count Orlok, what's strange though is that Orlok is not coming to the town to look at the property. Instead, Thomas has been sent to meet with Count Orlok, and he encounters a group of individuals who warn him against going to see Count Orlok, and from there, I don't think we, like you said, I don't think we need to go too much deeper into the actual plot point of the movie, but let's just start off I guess before we even start off with what we think. We saw this in IMAX, which I thought was kind of a unique thing to do for a horror movie.
Yeah.
I don't know many horror movies that come out in IMAX. So we literally have just left. We have not said anything about this movie to one another. So what did you think?
I mean, my first words after the show were that was awesome, and mainly like the kind of the conclusion, which I don't want to give too much away because I feel like, I don't know. I don't want to ruin the ending necessarily.
Yeah, well, let's do this. I think that it's safe to say we would both recommend to go see it.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah, but let's just say that this podcast is going to be spoiler heavy.
All right.
So so stop listening right now if you want to see it, and go see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, continue.
I think I think it's kind of a slower burn, but it's got my whole thing with it felt like and I've not seen the 1920 film, the original, but it feels like there are certain moments of those films or this film that alluded to visual aspects of it, like when it went black and white. So I feel like
the hand crawling up the sides of the stairs. Everybody's very familiar with that.
The very beginning where you see his face feels like very much like how he would have looked in the original film. Maybe you can say more, but again, somebody who hasn't seen the original, I feel like they probably did a really good job almost like recreating the movie, not to a T, but very well. It was very well done. They probably had a lot of like dramatization of this film. I think that really all of it felt like a 1920s film. The storytelling aspects of it, I think the scary parts that they kind of added, a lot of them were jump scares. That, I gotta say, that's one thing that I felt like they just did a lot of. That was a little, I felt like, uncharacteristic of a film that probably filmed in the 20s,
let's do this, because I think this is interesting, because I've seen the original, you've not seen it, so I'd be curious to know, like, setting what you think is part of the actual original aside, just as, like, somebody who's a moviegoer who saw the movie, like, what was your opinion about it?
I mean, I liked it. I thought it was a great movie. I thought the storytelling was, I thought it was a unique story. I thought the acting was good. I thought, like, it was set in the 1830s in Germany. I really liked it. I thought it was I think, again, not to go back to the 20s film, but I feel like they probably did, relay it and redo it in a way that was very personable, and I don't know, they did a good job of like redoing it. Overall, as a film itself, I still really liked it. I loved it. I thought they, I thought the parts that needed to be scary were good. I thought the parts that needed to be like slow burn were good. They did a good job of like not spoon feeding information to you. I don't know. I mean, I really liked it.
Yeah, a couple of things that stood out to me is this movie is one of the most visually striking horror movies I think that I've seen. Honestly, maybe ever. Like and not in the way in that. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. Like, there are plenty of horror movies that I've seen that I think are, like, they shock you at how well they've been set, and the different visual effects and things like that. I think that just the scenery, like, every shot has this, like, commitment to symmetry, and I think that, setting all that aside, just how imposing Count Orlok is, and the scenes where you get a good glimpse of him are, I mean, truly horrifying. Yeah. Like you mentioned the different jump scares, and I gotta say, this is the one thing that I think I didn't care about when we saw this in IMAX, is that I felt like we were too close to the screen. Did you feel like that? Yeah,
but I will say, like, when you talk about jump scares, and those certain moments where, like, the character's face is literally everything in the frame. It's the face. I mean, and I get that when you're saying it's imposing, like, that's kind of the whole point, is, like, it's very, very personable, and, but like, I agree. I think maybe it's just the size of the screen. I don't know.
Well, the reason why I bring that up is because with this being so jump scare heavy, and jump scares usually are like there for a second and then they're gone.
Yeah.
There were a lot of times where there was a jump scare and my brain was like, wait, what happened?
You can't, like,
it was almost hard to see what had happened, because it was like you said, like, you're looking at, I don't know how big an IMAX screen is. Yeah. What is it, like 100 feet? Like, it's like, and it's consuming the whole thing. I almost felt like, I say that because I think that there were some instances in which the IMAX screen hurt my experience with the movie, but the sound was incredible. I think the sound was amazing.
Yeah. I think overall the sound, just the effects, the way that it was done and portrayed, well, again, very purposeful, kind of, help the illusion of feeling like you're there, well, especially in IMAX. But I think that was obviously one of the, in any horror movie, that's very important to building the scene.
I also wasn't sure if, like, this is an IMAX movie, but there were a number of shots where I was like, is this an IMAX camera? Because there are times where, you would be, especially right when you get to the castle that Count Orlok is in. A lot of what the shots are is they have a shot and then they kind of slowly pan.
Yeah.
And as they're panning, I don't know if you noticed this, but like
artifact or...
there were so many artifacts. It was almost hard to look at.
I don't know if I don't think I would have caught something like that. For someone who... I don't think I would have caught that.
It was...
I didn't catch any of that.
It was so smeary looking that I was like, oh, well. So I guess I say all that to say that there were a lot of parts of this movie where the IMAX experience really benefited it. And then there were a lot of others where I was like, oh, I kind of wish I was looking at this at either a normal, a normal theater screen, or I was at home. But there were times where I think some of those jump scares kind of hurt the fact that it was there for a brief second, but my brain didn't catch up to what had been just shown.
The image is so large. I think kind of going on that number, I kind of, I don't mind jump scares when they're purposeful, but like it was almost like an equation. Like it was very, and it's not a bad thing. It's like kind of predictable. Like anytime the sound went down, or anytime there was a suspenseful moment, it didn't. Sometimes you got to let the scene breathe. You got to let the scene speak for itself. But almost like anytime it was going to be quiet, it instantly, I was like, I know there's a jump scare, and boom, it happened.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it becomes very redundant. It almost takes away from it, and like towards the end, you kind of are just like sitting there thinking like, I'm ready for the jump scare, and it happens.
Yeah.
I think that was a little overdone. I think the storytelling though, like the slow parts, I think the visuals of like the snowy time, I mean it was like Christmas time, like all the rats, I think the dogs in the street, like they were like graven things, like they were just like horrible things to witness. Like they did a really good job with making the plague, because they talk about the plague of Nosferatu, but there's an actual physical plague taking over like the people and killing everybody. And I guess that's set in that time period, 1830s.
Yeah, it was probably close to
the
bubonic plague.
Yeah, it felt very, just like, you could feel the weight of... And I was thinking of like our ancestors, like, oh my God, like somebody like my great whatever grandpa, like probably dealt with that stuff, So it's just, yeah. I think jump scares were a little much. I think everything else, though, about like the visual aspects were very good.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, like I did like this movie. This one is interesting for me because I'm trying to set aside what I know about the original, and like to be even more clear, I don't know that I feel like the original is this great piece of cinema. Like,
it's recovered, from...
Yeah, it's like, I thought it was fine. I thought it was kind of hard to watch because of just how dated it is. But I did enjoy this movie. I thought that the jump scares, even though I get it, like, some people might critique jump scares as being a cheap thing, I thought they really worked well in this movie.
I think for the most part, yeah. I mean, I would say that most of them were purposeful, but some of them felt... whether it's... Again, like I said, it's whether it's too predictable, but yeah, I agree. I think for the most part, I think some were a little cheap, but I don't know. Maybe that's just like the 2024 twist, I guess.
Well, I think that this is where I think the IMAX sound experience really helped, because like whenever the carriage, the riderless carriage shows up, it's like truly spooky. Yeah. Like it's eerie. It is foreboding to see this.
Do you remember if that scene was in the
original? No, not at all. But
I was wondering, because I feel like every black and white scene that you saw was kind of a nod to them displaying the original scenes from the original Nosferatu. That's kind of what I was thinking.
I'll be honest. I think that there is very little that I recall there being. Yeah. And in fact, that kind of brings me to one thing I wanted to bring up is one thing that was kind of shocking to me, not in a bad way, just in a different way, I guess, was in the original, showing Count Orlok's face is constant. Like, I think it's Max Schreck that's playing Count Orlok, and he's got this just just, I mean, if you have you seen what Nosferatu looks like from this?
I've seen like the original.
Yeah. So they make it a point to show his face relentlessly,
kind of like Gremlin-ish. Like
he's got the pointy ears.
Yes,
and I mean, even even though it was many years ago, I still find it like a pretty terrifying face.
Yeah.
And in this movie, they shy away from that a lot. Like they try to blur his face, mask it, hide it in shadows and things like that, which I think does work well. But I think that this was one of those things where I feel like it really tried to distance itself from the original, because the original is so heavy on showing his face and using his face as a device for scaring you. But
is it because you think that maybe they thought that the way he looked was a little hokey? I mean,
no, I think that what they did was, I just think that they wanted to. I think that they did what I think most sequels that end up being good, or not sequels, I guess, but like a retelling, remake. Is that this is the source material, but we're not. Our goal is not to do a 1-for-1 source material conversion. It's our goal here is to use that as inspiration, and we are putting our own take on it. And I thought they did a really good job of that.
Yeah, I want to think that story that we saw was very close, or if not like almost the exact story that they had shared. I mean, whether either way, I thought the storytelling was good. I thought, what really confused me at the beginning was, you're in this German town. It's like brick roads and stone, very homey-esque in winter. But you see the guy that he was talking to about going to this castle, and the mark that you see on his head is like that weird looking, I don't know what they want to call it, but it's some wound on his head.
Yeah.
And then I didn't pick up that the first time you see this guy is
whenever he's doing his I thought it was an occult sort of.
Yeah, there was like some ritual stuff that he was doing from the book, the codex they were talking about. And I didn't put that together until he was already in captivity.
Jail
and I was like, wait a second, that was the guy, because I started to look at his head. I was like, oh, so I don't know. I think that that kind of confused me. So that part where that was a little twist. I thought the part where Tomas goes to the village and like hears these people, I don't know if he can understand. I don't know if the whole point is that he can't understand them at all.
Yeah, I got the impression. I actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because whenever I was watching that, I was thinking, like, I was trying to keep an eye on, is he responding back to them like as if he understands the words or just understands the gestures? And it seemed like it was more like he was understanding the gestures. They were saying, pray, pray. They were giving him things. And but I don't think he understood any of what they were saying. Yeah. Right? Like, at least it didn't seem like that.
Yeah, I think that was a nice nod to, again, kind of like the how leery he should be of walking into this, I mean, of course, other things had happened at that point, but it was kind of a dreamlike state where he saw these people go to the original burial site and kill, I guess, was that Nosferatu? Was that?
It seemed like it was where he was buried, and they were driving a stake through him, as if it were like in Count Orlok was saying that, oh, that's just a silly ritual they do.
Yeah.
So it must be something they do, continuously. Yeah. As maybe a way of staving off the evil.
But then he woke up, and then the whole village he went to was abandoned, including his horse, which kind of like, it's more isolating to him, of course, and I think it's more isolating to like the viewer that he can't find refuge in the local village. He has to he's by himself in this, forbidden castle,
Yeah, and I thought the scenes from that point leading up to him entering the castle were some of my favorite parts of the movie. Like, I thought that it was ominous. It was, truly terrifying. He has no one. He has no horse. He has no supplies. He is desperate. Yeah. So when you see a riderless carriage show up and it opens its doors, like you're like, well, I have no other choice.
Right. He was. Yeah.
The visuals are striking. I thought that this is again where the IMAX sound system really benefited. When the horses rear up, like it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
that part was
even when you
freaky.
see the jump scare and you're anticipating it, it is still scary.
Yeah. I agree.
I like this. I did think. What's funny about Count Orlok is when they would kind of show his face, you know who I thought I was, you know who that looks like?
I'm not sure who.
Dr. Robotnik.
Oh.
Looks like Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik.
That's really funny.
And they're showing this guy and he's got like this bristle, like this push broom mustache kind of style.
That's really funny.
I thought I was like. And speaking of funny too, is like I certainly don't remember in the original Nosferatu the comic relief of Willem Dafoe.
Oh my
God!
I was gonna get to that point because you can kind of hear him talking, and then even in the audience, like people are kind of laughing. And I gotta say, like, I at first was like, everyone knows William Dafoe, and it's just like it almost feels like too obvious of a choice. Like when you have someone like that who's so big named. You probably shouldn't have him in a film, but I think he played his character perfectly, and I think the whole point was that, like, you had some recognizable fallback to laugh to. And his character wasn't necessarily, like, funny. I mean, it
wasn't strictly comic relief.
Right, but he had some nuances that made it funny.
I will say when he first showed up, I love Willem Dafoe, but when he first showed up, there was this part of me that was like, I don't know.
That's what I thought.
You know what I mean?
That's what I said. Yeah, but I think at the end, whenever
he brought an energy to the movie that I think it needed, and I think that when he. So I will say it was really jarring because it felt like an entirely different movie had started at that moment.
I feel like I can only think of the Green Goblin.
I mean, totally. I mean, again, I love Willem Dafoe. He's great for those roles. He did an excellent job in The Lighthouse, which is directed by the same guy. What was his name? Isn't it Robert Eggers?
Eggers,
yeah. I mean, he's done an excellent job in these roles, but I just thought, like, at that moment there was this part of me initially that was like, I don't know, like, does this movie gel well with this sort of, and we say comic relief, it's not like funny. It's not like Marvel, where Marvel's comic relief, it's not quite to that degree.
It kind of just gives you a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, like. It sounds kind of corny, but you feel kind of safe. Like you kind of feel like he's got it taken care of. I don't know why, but
I mean, I
that's his character too.
I think the thing I would say is that everybody speaks in this very direct Victorian era sort of tone, whereas he tends to come across a little more jovial, a little bit more, little casual, little like that is more of the vibe that he brings. I would say it's not. So strictly comic relief, but that's sort of the vibe that he's bringing into the movie.
I'm trying to think. There's a few lines in there. They're talking about like who and what, and then he was like who, what. And, I mean, you got to have a little bit of that, especially like again, you're kind of turning the story to the climax where again, Nosferatu speaks to the woman and says that this 3 nights and everyone's gonna die.
Yeah.
And of course, like this, he's kind of joking, and then again, the William Dafoe's character, and then you hear, I mean, then everyone starts dying. Like their friend's wife dies and their children dies, and it's kind of needed because the whole movie is very dark and very serious. So yeah, I like this character.
And speaking of climax, this is a horny movie, man. Like, dude, this was one horny movie.
Yeah, I will say, like the beginning, that's the first jump scare. Like she's kind of having this. I don't want to go too crazy into. I don't want to get blocked by Spotify, but like she's having a pleasurable moment.
Yeah, I mean, like,
and all of a sudden you see the Nosferatu face in a loud jump scare, and that's like when I knew there was going to be plenty of jump scare. But it obviously served an intention, there was a point to it.
Yeah. Like there have been plenty of vampire movies that create a romance between, even the act of sucking blood is like this romantic, sort of romanticized action between a vampire and a vampire's victim. But what I think was so much more alarming about this movie, or maybe not alarming, but like at first, the first time or two that it happens, you're just like sort of taken aback. You're not expecting is not just a romance between these two, but like a sexual like act between these individuals.
I think that's kind of the point. I mean, I'm guessing if you're talking about like the deep vampire lore, I mean, kind of the same thing with like, oh my gosh, what's it called? The kind of the Edward, what's the Edward?
You're talking about Twilight?
Twilight.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it kind of has those, that's like teeny bop stuff, but I get, it's like, there's a sexual component, and it kind of, I mean, it does hit those notes very hard, pardon my pun, but I mean, it's like, I'll tell you, even the sound of like sucking the blood was very off-putting. It was very
I mean, it's clearly designed to be sexual,
and I think that's kind of I think maybe those, again, never seen the original, but maybe those were like the overtones that maybe it was trying to push but couldn't for that time era. Like, now you can get away with that stuff.
Well, and I think that it's, I don't know, like, I'm sure that it just didn't feel the need to push it to that degree. The original, I mean, again, like, I think there are some aspects of that, but I think in this one, like, I think one thing people might be caught off guard by is not just a romance between a vampire and the vampire's victim, but like a sexually active act between those two individuals.
It was very jarring because it was abrupt. Typically, it's from the main protagonist, female. Honestly, I can't remember her name right now.
You mean I'm pulling up. You mean Ellen?
Is that the
Thomas and Ellen?
Yes. Yeah, of course, it's because it's between her and Nosferatu, and like their ties from the beginning of the movie, and how I think maybe they could have like explored that maybe a little bit more, but I think the whole story again is I think it was a good amount of time for the movie to transpire. Like, any longer, I think I would have been like, okay, it seems like it's just kind of like dragging on a little bit, but maybe some parts do, but I think they're really, again, setting up kind of for this very end, and that's what the end was just incredible. I think the ending of this movie was, I mean, it's not like anything brand new with like someone sacrificing their life but just the fact that the doctor kind of like told the Tomas and the other doctor, like, you need to go kill this vampire. We're going to go to the Count's place of residence and stab him. And so he gets there, he pushes the tomb open.
And he knows it's a futile
the doctor,
effort.
Willem Dafoe's character, knows it is. And then he's like, oh, that's not him. And he's like, oh, he's with Ellen. And the doctor was like, I gotcha. Like, this had to happen. There was no other way to do this. And so then it's very, again, that the whole scene was like, there was not a sound in the whole audience that at the very end, because it gets, the way they did the credits were perfect, because it was dark for like what felt like 30 seconds, but it was like quiet for like 2 or 3 seconds, and it just felt like, man, I felt like I was like gonna start clapping. I was like, dude, that was so good. I thought that adaptation of the ending was well done. It kind of alluded to the Codex part where they talk about how to defeat, and maybe it was very obvious to some people, some regular moviegoers, but it was like a really amazing scene, and it was so grotesque at the end when they kind of have a bird's eye view, because she's in the bed and he's dead. Like, I mean, he's like bones and skin, and he is obviously dead, but there's blood on the bed, and he's like obviously nude. But it kind of goes from how you see him in the beginning, where he's like this 7 foot tall, like booming character, to just like he's just skeleton and bones, like on top of this lady. And I thought it was that part was like awesome. The whole ending was just I liked that a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was a really satisfying ending. I think that it's I mean, as gross of a description as this may be, it is like a sexual act.
Yeah.
It is like you see these two people embracing each other. She has sacrificed her life for the sake of,
I mean,
not just her, not just her husband, not just her friends, but for the whole town. And I think that they did a really good job of capturing this very emotional scene between the characters, and that she resigned herself to, you're hoping that this person going through all these afflictions will be cured. I think that what you hope is going to happen is the men are going to rush in, the men are going to pull the coffin down, and they're going to drive the stake into the heart of the vampire, and the woman will be cured. And that's not what happens. That what happens is this woman bravely says, this is the only way to save the town, is he will find me irresistible, and I will leverage that to keep him here until the sun comes up. The sun will waste him away. And you do, at the end, you do see this sort of behemoth character become just reduced to
bones.
Like just a literal corpse, like just laying there.
I think the ending was quite satisfying, and I think I just really liked it. I thought it felt like, again, the way that it was paced just felt like different than any movie that I feel like I've ever seen. I've not seen a movie that felt well paced, and even even the way they spoke obviously was very old timey, but I don't know, just the way that it was shot too, and some aspects just felt like, I don't know, you could tell, like, I don't know whether the story's older than that, I don't know, but it was an old story. That you feel like and I feel like, let's give props where props is due. The director, I feel like, did a really great job with the entire film was great. Again, I feel like I will say the acting was great. I think the parts where it made me uncomfortable, like when the women, particularly when they have these moments of pleasure.
Like they're in the middle of a dream, and they're clearly being coached or prompted to, that the dream is not just them tossing and turning, it's them having a sexual experience.
That's part of it. And I think just with like it almost feels exorcism-ish when they're like seizing, they're like, and like they're like floating in the bed almost. And that's why I think it's interesting when we talk about, I don't know if like we have given that alliteration of like, oh, they're called vampires, but this movie never once says that word.
So the only time they say that is whenever the gypsies are,
that's true,
are saying like the vampire.
I guess that's
but nobody else in town is like referring to him as like, oh, it's a vampire.
It's just like legends,
right?
They probably don't know of any, at least like in the I want to say cultured, but like in the cities, they don't probably know about vampires and village lore.
Well, we'll wrap this up because it is 1:40. we literally just got out. The movie started at 10:30. But I liked it. I would highly recommend it. Check it out. I mean, do you have anything you'd add? I think
we summed it up pretty well, and I think it's one of those movies where I would say almost like the IMAX experience is worth watching if it's still in theaters. I mean, if not, I understand, but I think
I would see it in theaters.
I think if you can get to the theater and see it and experience the visual, like the audio part of it, I mean, is better than what can come out of your TV speakers. I don't know. I think that part of it is impressive.
The theater experience will definitely elevate this movie. If you can swing it, I would definitely do that.
There's a few things, again, I think I would change, or I didn't like necessarily, but not enough for me to like ever say that this film doesn't deserve, high praise.
Yep.
For me.
I agree.
On 3.
Right. 1, 2, 3, 143 time.
143.
Goodbye.